Crossing the Rhine at Remagen, March 1945. The 9th Armored Division's unexpected discovery of an intact bridge. The desperate race to capture it before Germans could destroy it, and holding it under constant attack.
Welcome back, everyone. Today, I want to tell you about one of the most incredible strokes of luck in World War II, a moment that changed the entire course of the war in Europe. It's a story about being in the right place at the right time, about split-second decisions, and about ordinary soldiers doing extraordinary things. This is the story of the bridge at Remagen, March 7th, 1945. By early March 1945, the war in Europe was winding down. The Allies had pushed the Germans back across France, through Belgium, and now they were at Germany's doorstep. But there was one major obstacle standing between the Allied armies and the heart of Germany: the Rhine River. The Rhine isn't just any river. It's massive, in some places over 1,000 feet wide. It's deep, fast-flowing, and in March swollen with snowmelt from the mountains. For centuries, the Rhine had been Germany's natural fortress, protecting the German homeland from invaders from the west. The Allied plan was to gather forces, prepare elaborate river crossings with boats and pontoon bridges, and then assault across the Rhine in a massive, coordinated operation. That was scheduled for late March. Until then, Allied forces would reach the Rhine, secure the western bank, and wait. The Germans knew this. They knew the Allies would eventually cross the Rhine, but they were going to make it as difficult as possible. The German High Command had given strict orders: destroy every bridge across the Rhine. Don't let the Allies capture a single crossing intact. Make them fight for every foot. And the Germans had been doing exactly that. As Allied forces approached the Rhine, the Germans systematically blew up bridge after bridge. By early March 1945, not a single bridge across the Rhine remained standing. The Germans had destroyed them all. Or so everyone thought. Let me introduce you to the men who discovered otherwise. They were from the 9th Armored Division, a unit that had been fighting across Europe since Normandy. On March 7, 1945, Combat Command B of the 9th Armored was pushing eastward through the German countryside, approaching the Rhine near a small town called Remagen. Their mission wasn't anything special. Just advance to the Rhine, secure the western bank, and wait for the big crossing operation later in the month. Nobody expected to find anything unusual. Certainly, nobody expected to find a bridge. Leading the advance was a task force under Lieutenant Carl Timmerman from Nebraska. Timmerman was 22 years old, a former enlisted man who'd earned a battlefield commission in France. He was commanding Company A of the 27th Armored Infantry Battalion, about 120 men in half-tracks and on foot.
Around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Timmerman's force approached a ridge overlooking the Rhine Valley. When they reached the top and looked down toward the river, they couldn't believe what they saw. There, spanning the Rhine, was a railroad bridge, and it was still standing. Sergeant Alex Drobick from Ohio later described the moment. "We came over that ridge, and somebody shouted, 'Look, a bridge!' We all stopped and stared. We'd been watching the Germans blow bridges for weeks. Every time we got close to one, boom, it was gone. But this one was still there. We couldn't believe our eyes." The bridge was called the Ludendorff Bridge, built during World War I. It was a massive steel structure, over 1,000 feet long, carrying railroad tracks across the Rhine. From where Timmerman's men stood, they could see German soldiers and vehicles on the bridge and on the far side. They could also see what looked like demolition charges, explosives that the Germans would use to blow the bridge. Lieutenant Timmerman immediately radioed back to his battalion commander, Major Murray Devers. The news went up the chain of command fast. Within minutes, it reached Brigadier General William Hogue, commander of Combat Command B. Hogue faced a decision. The safe thing to do would be to wait, bring up more troops, prepare a proper assault. But by then, the Germans would certainly blow the bridge. The bold thing to do would be to attack immediately, try to capture the bridge before the Germans could destroy it. It was an enormous risk. The Germans could blow the bridge with American soldiers on it. There could be heavy defenses on the far side. The bridge itself might be booby-trapped. Dozens of things could go wrong. General Hogue made his decision in about 30 seconds. He told his officers, "Get across that bridge. Take it, now." The order went down to Lieutenant Timmerman, "Take your company and capture that bridge." Timmerman gathered his men. He told them what they were about to do. Charge down the hill, across about 400 yards of open ground, onto that bridge, and try to get across before the Germans blew it up. He didn't sugarcoat it. This was going to be dangerous. Some of them probably wouldn't make it. But this was a chance to cross the Rhine without the massive casualties everyone expected from a contested river crossing. This could shorten the war. This could save thousands of American lives.
Private Johnny Ayres from Texas later remembered what Timmerman said. The lieutenant looked at us and said, "We're going to take that bridge. I don't know if we'll make it, but we're going to try. Follow me." And that was it. We started moving. Around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Timmerman's company started down the hill toward the bridge. American tanks provided covering fire, shooting at German positions on the far side of the river. Artillery shells began falling on German positions. The Germans saw the Americans coming and opened fire. Machine guns from the towers on both sides of the bridge, rifles from positions along the riverbank. The Americans ran through the fire, using whatever cover they could find: buildings, walls, shell craters. Men fell. Private August Hollenstein from Michigan was hit and killed in the first minute. Sergeant Joseph DeLizio from New York was wounded but kept moving. The company kept pushing forward. As they got closer to the bridge, the situation got more desperate. The Germans on the bridge were trying to blow it up. The Americans could see them working frantically at the demolition charges. If those charges went off while American soldiers were on the bridge, everyone on it would die. Lieutenant Timmerman reached the western end of the bridge first. Behind him, his men were still crossing the open ground under fire. Ahead of him was the bridge itself, over 1,000 feet of steel and wood planking, with no cover, no protection. And somewhere on that bridge were demolition charges ready to blow. Timmerman didn't hesitate. He started across. Behind him, Sergeant Drabeck and a handful of other soldiers followed. They ran onto the bridge, exposed completely, with German fire coming from the towers and from the far side of the bridge. The wooden planks of the bridge had gaps. You could see the river rushing below. Some of the planks were missing entirely. Halfway across, there was a massive explosion. The Germans had tried to blow the bridge. The explosion was enormous. It rocked the entire structure. Timbers flew into the air. Smoke and dust filled the air. But when the smoke cleared, the bridge was still standing. The demolition charges had damaged it, but hadn't brought it down. Either the charges had been placed wrong, or they were faulty, or there simply wasn't enough explosive. Whatever the reason, the bridge held. Timmerman and the men with him kept running. German machine gun fire stitched the bridge deck. Sergeant Drabeck saw men fall around him, but kept going. The far side of the bridge seemed impossibly far away. Then there was another explosion, smaller this time. The Germans were trying again to blow the bridge. Again, the structure shook but held. The Germans had failed to destroy their own bridge, and now American soldiers were almost across.
Sergeant Drabick reached the eastern end of the bridge first, becoming the first American soldier to cross the Rhine. Right behind him was Lieutenant Timmerman and the rest of the company. They immediately attacked the German positions at the bridge head. The fighting was fierce, but brief. The Germans, mostly older men and boys from a Volkssturm unit, the German equivalent of a home guard, fought for a few minutes, then retreated. They'd done their best, but they'd failed to stop the Americans. By 4 o'clock in the afternoon, less than an hour after the attack began, the Americans controlled both ends of the Ludendorff Bridge. Engineers immediately began checking the structure and cutting wires to any remaining demolition charges. More American troops began pouring across. The news spread through the Allied command like wildfire. Within hours, General Eisenhower himself heard about it. His chief of staff called General Hodges and told him, "Hold that bridge, push everything you have across. This is the break we've been waiting for." The Germans were stunned. Hitler was furious. He immediately ordered counterattacks to destroy the bridge and throw the Americans back across the Rhine. German artillery began pounding the bridge. The Luftwaffe, which had been largely absent from the skies for months, suddenly appeared, German fighters and bombers attacking the bridge repeatedly. But the Americans held. Engineers worked frantically to strengthen the bridge and remove the remaining German demolitions. Anti-aircraft guns were brought up to protect against air attacks. More and more American troops crossed, first a trickle, then a flood. For the next 10 days, the bridge at Remagen became the most fought-over piece of real estate in Europe. The Germans threw everything they had at it. Artillery fire was constant. German commandos tried to swim down the river and attach explosives to the bridge supports. The Luftwaffe made dozens of bombing runs. The Americans defending the bridge came under some of the heaviest fire of the entire war. Shells fell constantly. Several times German bombs hit the bridge directly, but somehow it stayed standing. American engineers performed miracles, keeping it operational while under fire.
Private Robert Billings, from Georgia, was an engineer working on the bridge. "We were working on the bridge deck, trying to repair damage, and shells were landing all around us. You'd hear the whistle, hit the deck, wait for the explosion, then get up and keep working. We knew if that bridge went down, a lot of guys would die, trying to cross the river some other way. So we kept it standing." The bridge became a symbol. Every soldier who crossed it knew he was walking into history. Over 25,000 American soldiers crossed the Ludendorff Bridge in those 10 days. Tanks, trucks, artillery, everything the Army could push across went across that bridge. General Patton, when he heard about the bridge, was jealous. He'd been planning his own Rhine crossing further south and wanted to be first. But even Patton had to admit, capturing an intact bridge across the Rhine was one of the greatest tactical coups of the war. On March 17, 1945, 10 days after its capture, the Ludendorff Bridge finally collapsed. The damage from German demolitions, artillery, bombs, and the sheer weight of all the traffic it had carried was too much. The bridge gave a groan, twisted, and fell into the Rhine. But by then, it didn't matter. American engineers had built pontoon bridges on both sides of the ruined bridge. The Americans had a firm foothold on the eastern bank of the Rhine. The bridgehead was secure, with thousands of troops and hundreds of vehicles already across. The capture of the bridge at Remagen changed the war. It forced the Germans to divert troops and resources to contain the bridgehead, troops they desperately needed elsewhere. It gave the Allies a jumping-off point deep into Germany, weeks ahead of schedule. It demoralized the German defenders and energized the Allied troops. Historians have debated how much time it saved. Some say weeks, some say months. But everyone agrees it saved thousands of American lives. Instead of making costly river crossings under fire, American troops crossed on a bridge that brave men had captured in a moment of incredible courage and quick thinking. The men who captured the bridge were heroes. Lieutenant Carl Timmerman received the Distinguished Service Cross. Sergeant Alex Drabick received the Distinguished Service Cross. Many others received Silver Stars and Bronze Stars. But they didn't do it for medals. They did it because it was their job and because they knew it could make a difference.
After the war, Lieutenant Timmerman was asked why he led his men across that bridge when he knew it could be blown at any second. He said, "I didn't think about it much. We had a job to do. The bridge was there. We took it. That's what soldiers do." The story of the bridge at Remagen is a reminder that in war, opportunities appear suddenly and unexpectedly. Success often goes to those who can recognize the opportunity and act decisively. General Hogue could have played it safe, waited for orders, prepared a proper assault. Instead, he made a split-second decision to attack immediately. Lieutenant Timmerman could have hesitated, waited for support, let someone else go first. Instead, he led from the front. And 120 soldiers of Company A, 27th Armored Infantry Battalion, could have held back, could have moved slowly, could have let fear stop them. Instead, they ran across open ground under fire, charged onto a bridge that could blow up at any second, and captured the first crossing over the Rhine. That's the American soldier. Not superhuman, not fearless, but willing to do the hard thing, the dangerous thing, the right thing, when the moment demands it. Today, if you visit Remagen, you can see the towers that once anchored the bridge. They're still standing on both sides of the Rhine, preserved as a museum. The bridge itself is long gone, replaced by modern crossings. But those towers stand as a reminder of what happened there in March 1945. They remind us of Lieutenant Timmerman from Nebraska, who led from the front, of Sergeant Drabick from Ohio, who was first across, of Private Ayres from Texas and all the others who followed them across that bridge, of the engineers who kept it standing under fire, of the thousands of soldiers who crossed it, knowing they were part of something historic. The bridge at Remagen. One bridge, one moment, one decision, and the course of history changed. Thank you for listening, and never forget what those men did on that March day in 1945.
War always looks different from a distance. In history books, it's strategy, arrows on maps, and speeches about victory. But down there, on the ground, it's cold, fear, and young faces that should have been home. The bridge at Remagen wasn't just a crossing, it was a moment bought with blood, courage, and luck. Thousands crossed that bridge, and thousands never came back from others like it. The men who fought there didn't dream of glory, they dreamed of surviving one more night, of seeing their families again, of silence instead of gunfire. Every bridge like Remagen, every ruined town, every grave by the roadside is a reminder of what war really is. It's not flags and medals, it's the sound of a mother's cry. It's empty chairs at the dinner table. It's promises never kept. And for what? For borders drawn by old men who never held a rifle? For pride? For power? For greed? The men who start wars never pay the price. The boys who fight them always do. Remember that, because behind every victory, there's 1,000 broken lives.
And that's the truth about war. It destroys everything, except the memory of those who had the courage to stand when it mattered most.